Are we ready? Is it live? You should have told me. I'm waiting for your signal that we can start the class. I don't know what's happening. All right. Good evening. Let's start with our opening prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitam astu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May we be protected together. May we be nourished together. May we acquire strength together. May our learning shine forth in our lives. May we not find fault with one another. Om, peace, peace, peace. So the topic of this class is Upanishadic meditation. And as you know, the Upanishads are the expressions of the realized souls, of their experience of enlightenment, their experience of Brahman. Of course, there are other things in the Upanishads, but the main aim of the Upanishads is to teach us how to realize who we really are, which is infinite consciousness, infinite bliss. And the Upanishads, it means sitting near. The student will sit near the teacher and receive the teachings. And this is what these holy verses, we call them mantras, are. These mantras which have a power to awaken us. They're not mere words. They actually have a power in the mantra itself, because it points directly to that reality which is our true nature. And so the idea behind this class, which we have done from time to time, is to actually practice the mantra as a meditation. The teaching of Vedanta, how do we study? What are the 3 steps in Vedanta? First, we have to hear the truth. Yes. Then we think about it. We deliberate about it. We convince ourselves of the truth of it. And then we have to meditate on it. We have to meditate. So the idea behind this class is we're going to first read, we're going to take today Katha Upanishad. We're going to take a few mantras. We're going to read the mantra. We're going to understand the meaning of it. We're going to see if we have any doubts about it. Then we'll take 5 minutes of silent meditation for the mantra and see if we can grasp that which is pointed out by the mantra, see if we can embody that in the meditation. So it's a little bit of a different kind of class. It's not a meditation class exactly. It's neither is it a scripture class exactly. It's an attempt to present briefly this ideal of nididhyasana, of meditating on the teaching of the Upanishads. And this also is how Swami Turiyananda, our disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, guided us to how to study the scriptures, these sacred texts. We do it in this way, by taking one verse at a time, learning it, studying it, memorizing it. Yes, that will help also, memorizing the verse, and then living it, breathing it, meditating on it, manifesting it, understanding it, not in an intellectual way, but in a very deep way. So let's turn to the first verse I'd like to take up. This is the Katha Upanishad, which is that dialogue, as so many of the Upanishads are presented as a dialogue. This is a dialogue between Nachiketa and Yama, the king of death. And as we're going to dive in here to the middle of the Upanishad, so it's kind of diving in the middle. But Yama is in the middle of his teachings of what is our true self, what is the Atman, who are we really. And of course the amazing teaching is that who we really are is infinite and deathless. But it's very difficult to realize, and this first verse addresses that difficulty. I'll chant it first once in Sanskrit, and then we'll read a translation, and then we'll go through it word by word, and we'll chant it together. Paranchikani vyatrinat swayambhu tasmat parang pashyati nantaratman kaschidhirah pratyagatmanamakshat avritta chakshur amritattvamichan. All right. The verse describes how our sense organs, all these openings in our body which receive information from the external world, what is their nature? They're paranchi. They're going outwards. They're not going in. They're going outwards. And it is as if they were made defective in this way, that this is a defect of them, and that they were made in this way. And who has made them? Well, the divine, Swayambhu, that self-existent reality, has, as it were, inflicted defects on these senses by making them all going outwards. And that's our experience. Our regular experience is that everything we perceive as separate from us. I see you separate from me. You're outside of me, and I see the light shining from the chandelier, and the chandelier is also outside of me. And you hear my voice, and it is outside of you. It's coming in through your ears. So all our senses are pointing out. And therefore, we give a great... this world seems so very real because our senses are pointing out. We're receiving all this sensory information from outside. So, and therefore, one sees all these external things and not na antaratman, the self which is within, our true self, which is actually within us. If we go further, we find that we are actually within that. But for now, we're saying that that self is not out here. It is within. It is who we really are. But we don't see it. Why? Why is it so difficult? Because the senses are pointed outward. So they're defective, as it were. And then, Yamagosanta say, Kaschidhira, a rare, wise person, a rare, calm person, seeking to know immortality, desiring to reach the immortal, that which does not die, that which does not change. Amritattvam icchan. What does she or he do? Avritta chakshuhu. This is a beautiful way of saying avritta chakshuhu. Chakshuhu is our eyes, and avritta is to cover them. The idea is that if we want to know our true self, we have to turn within. And it's poetically put in this way, by covering our eyes. Of course, it means closing our senses, as it were, and directing all our attention within, to our inner experience, and to find the very root of our being. And what happens then? Pratyag atmanam aikshat. One directly experiences one's true self. One directly experiences the inner self. So this is the translation of this verse. So let's chant it together. So I'll chant one word at a time, and you repeat after me. Paranchi Kani Vyatrinat Swayambhu Tasmat parang pashyati nantaratman kaschid dhiraha pratyak atmanam aikshat avritta chakshuhu amritatvam icchan. Good. Beautiful. It's such a beautiful verse. Now I'm going to chant it with 2 words together and see if we can chant it that way. Paranchikani vyatrinat swayambhu tasmat parang pashyati nantaratman kaschidhiraha pratyagatmanam aikshat avritta chakshuhu amritatvamichan. So in a way you can find the whole spiritual path right here. What is, why actually should we do any spiritual practice at all? Why should we practice meditation? Because, well, we see that everything here is temporary. Everything here is unsatisfactory. But amritatvam, touching that immortality, desiring to reach that which is immortal, desiring to touch that which does not decay, that which is of the very nature of infinite bliss. Desiring that is why we do this practice. So that desire, Sri Ramakrishna says, yearning for God is the most essential ingredient in spiritual life. Can we yearn? Can we start to feel that everything here is unsatisfactory? We're seeing all these external things. We're not seeing who we really are. We're getting absorbed in the external world because our senses are built that way. All right, so we're built that way to get absorbed in the external world. But the teacher says, the sage says, the illumined soul says, hey, search for your own true self. You will touch immortality. You will know eternal peace. If you long for that, and with that, holding on to that desire, we cover our eyes. We turn our whole attention within and seek within, deep within our heart, our true self, which is of the very nature of eternal bliss and pure consciousness. So this is the teaching. Any questions, any comments? We can, oh, yes.
Is Yama saying this to Nachiketa?
Yes, this is the teaching from the Katha Upanishad, the conversation between Yama and Nachiketa. Yama is giving this instruction to Nachiketa. He's telling him how to find our true self, his true self, and he's speaking to us also. The Upanishads are these powerful teachings speaking to us as well. So let's take a comfortable position for meditation. We're going to meditate on this verse for 5 minutes. Let's see if I can find a very attractive translation to read out after we chant it once more. We'll read the translation, and then let us hold on to these ideas. One, that yes, our senses are receiving all information outside, therefore we don't find our true self. Rather, if we can turn them within, we can find our true self. And why shall we do that? With longing, with yearning to touch the immortal, the deathless. Paranchikani Vyatrinat Swayambhu Tasmat Parang Pashyati Nantaratman Kaschidhiraha Pratyagatmanamikshat Pratyagatmanam Pratyag Atmanam Aikshat Avrita Chakshuhu Amritatvamichan. The self-existent Supreme Lord inflicted an injury upon the sense organs in creating them with outgoing tendencies. Therefore, a person perceives only outer objects with them and not the inner self. But a calm person, wishing for immortality, beholds the inner self with her or his eyes closed. Any reflections? It doesn't give us, it's not yet giving us a clear idea of how to find our inner self other than turning within. But what is the nature of our true self? Still, it's not a full teaching, as it were, in that sense. Just that we are turning within. We're seeking within, not without. But it's beautiful. It drives home this idea that we're seeing all these external things and not that within, because we're constantly seeking out. We're constantly outward facing. You can, even in what we're experiencing, you can't.
I'm saying, like, there's no, like, how do we know there's something out there apart from your experience?
Well, that how do we know something? I'm saying it again so people can hear. How do we know there's something out there? Because of our experience of it. That's actually.
Apart from your experience of it, the only thing you actually know is
your experience of it. You have only your experience of something. You don't know whether it's actually there. Mm-hmm. Okay.
When I was trying to focus, the mind was going all directions, and then I tried to pull it, I had to bring my senses, like whatever you explained. And then whatever few moments I get that, I have a sense of expansion. I can feel that.
A sense of expansion.
Channeling like that. Again, the mind goes like scattered.
Yes.
And as soon as this is my job right now.
All right. This is our job. To turn within, to restrain the outgoing energy of the senses and turn the mind within.
I did not try to do the actual meditation that we do. I was just trying to focus on whatever you explained.
This is different from the usual meditation that we practice, the meditation that we've been taught by our teachers, to repeat our mantra and focus on the divine. This is different. This is actually taking this mantra of the Upanishads and letting it guide us to realization, actually. They have the power to bring us to realization. Let's take the next verse. He continues his teaching. Paracha kaman anuyanti balah te mrityoryanti vitatasya pasham atadhira amritatvam viditva dhruvam adhruveshu ihana prarthayanti. This is, first he gives us a warning. He says, those who seek the external pleasures, they are like children, balaha. They are like children, those who seek. It means they are immature. They have not yet become wise. Those people who are only seeking pleasures in the external world. Why are they like children? Well, because they are so fleeting. These pleasures are so fleeting. They fall into that widespread net, that widespread snare of mrityuhu, of death. In other words, yamas. They fall into yama's snare. And but again, here the wise person, the dhiraha, amritatvam viditva, knowing that which is unchanging, that which is immortal, knowing the unchanging within this changing world, they do not seek anything here. They do not seek anything in this world. It's interesting, the language says prarthayanti. They do not pray for anything. Well, prarthayanti can mean to desire, or actually the first meaning is given as to pray. They do not pray for anything here. Iha, na prarthayante. They don't pray for anything here. The mark of the highest seeker, really, is one who seeks only that and doesn't want anything else. We may not be in that category. All right, I'm not saying that we shouldn't pray for anything here. If we're facing difficulties and troubles, yes, of course we pray. But this is giving us an idea of that highest ideal, of the sage, of the illumined soul who doesn't seek anything here, seeking only that, our true nature. So this contains a little bit of a warning that seeking only pleasures in this world, it brings us to, we fall again and again into the snares of death. Children pursue outer pleasures and fall into the net of widespread death. But calm souls, having known what is unshakable immortality, do not covet any uncertain thing in this world. All right, let's chant it. Paracha kaman anuyanti balaha te mrityor yanti vidatasya pasham atadhira amritatvam viditva dhruvam adhruveshu iha na prarthayante. Beautiful. Paracha kaman, external desires. Anuyanti balaha, the children pursue. They mrityor, to death. Yanti, go. Vitatasya pasham, that snare, that widespread snare of death. Atadhira, but the wise soul, amritatvam, the immortality, viditva, having known, dhruvam, the eternal, adhruveshu, amidst the non-eternal, na prarthayante, does not pray for anything here. In the midst of this changing world, this non-eternal world, there is the eternal. Knowing that, we don't need to seek for anything here because the eternal is found within everything and within ourselves. Shall we take 5 minutes with this mantra? One more time, we'll chant it one more time. Paracha kaman anuyanti balaha te mrityor yanti vitatasya pasham atadhira amritatvam viditva dhruvam adhruveshu ihana prarthayante. Children pursue the external pleasures, and so they fall into the snare of the widespread death. But the wise do not desire anything in this world, having known what is eternally immortal in the midst of all non-eternals. This is how the secret of desirelessness. Holy Mother used to say, if there's something to pray for desirelessness. Oh, and how now we can understand how does that come? When we have touched the eternal, when we have touched that which does not change, our true self, then what else could we possibly want? What else could we possibly pray for? It's a tall order. We want so many things. And we want things to be better, and we want peace in the world, and we want to have a comfortable house, and we want to have a good supper, and all these things we want. Finding that eternal amidst the non-eternals. Then, once we touch that, all those desires drop away, and we attain that peace. Now, this next verse is very interesting, because he's specifically addressing our sense experience. Yena rupam rasam gandham shabdan sparshams maitunan etenaiva vijanati kimatra parishishyate etadvaitat. That means that Atman. Here the word Atman is not used, but that Atman by which human beings experience the sense experiences of rupam, of form and color with the eyes, of rasam, that is taste, of gandham, that is smell, of shabdan, of sounds, of sparsham, of touch, and even of maitunan, of carnal pleasures, of sexual pleasures. These experiences, all these experiences, how are they experienced? By that self, by that Atman alone are they experienced, are they known. And what else remains here? In other words, what else remains here? Because there is nothing outside of that self. And this is that. This Atman through which we experience everything is that true self of ours about which you were asking, Nachiketa. Nachiketa had asked Yama about who are we really? What remains after death, if anything? And he's saying this is that which you asked about. Let me read this nice translation. It is through Atman that one knows form, taste, smell, sounds, touches, and carnal pleasures. Is there anything that remains unknown to Atman? This verily is that. Now, this is fascinating, and there's a clue here to experiencing our true self. If we can examine, say, a particular sense experience and try to understand, try to see when a sense experience arises in our minds, it can be very vivid. And ordinarily we don't pay attention to the one who is experiencing it. But there is the clue. Who is experiencing that delicious taste? This afternoon at tea time, I had a wonderful piece of chocolate. It's filled with cashew butter. There's chocolate mixed with cashew butter, and it's a very intense experience, actually. It fills the tongue and the nasal passages, and it's a very intense experience of taste and smell, and also really of the touch of the in the mouth, the texture of the chocolate. Everything is perfect. It's a very powerful sense experience, bringing temporarily a lot of pleasure. And what happens in this pleasurable experience, and we've all experienced this kind of pleasure, the mind, that constant thinking, that constant running around of the mind, that constant seeking of satisfaction is stilled for a moment because of that intense pleasurable sensations. And we get a little taste of joy, a little taste of happiness while we're tasting, especially if we really pay attention to it. And the Vedanta says that actually that joy which we experience is a pale reflection of our true nature of infinite bliss. It's a pale reflection, but it is a reflection. That because our true nature is joy, and when our mind is stilled through this experience, we taste that joy. Now, at lunchtime yesterday, there was somebody had brought to the table some extra, very, very hot chili pickle. And some of you were here. One of you also tasted it. And this was some special chili from Bangladesh. Very hot Naga chilies. And I just put just a couple of drops on my lunch, and it filled the whole mouth with a very strong, unpleasant, burning sensation. And so this was an experience of some discomfort, actually, of displeasure. But it was a similar experience in that it was strong and it was commanding. And there too, that experience also can only arise within that consciousness which is who we are. So here's actually the clue. When we experience something through the senses, how are we experiencing it? We become conscious of it. We see a light and we say, I see the light. I am conscious of that light. I am conscious of this chocolate that I'm eating. I'm conscious of this burning sensation, this unpleasant sensation in my tongue. Or I'm conscious of the pain in my knee. That consciousness is our true self. When all those experiences die down, that consciousness remains as the true self of infinite bliss. But these experiences are so engaging, so arresting, and particularly this last one, Maitunan, the carnal pleasures, are so arresting that it's difficult to catch the consciousness, that who we are. But it's all arising within our true self. I'm going to read this a little commentary translated by Swami Nikhilananda. According to Vedanta, Atman, our true self, which is pure consciousness, is the subject, is the seer, is the one who experiences everything, including our body, our senses, our mind, and our ego. These are all objects. And the objects are devoid of consciousness. They are not conscious. So this microphone is not conscious. The piece of chocolate is not conscious. Even the tongue is not conscious. When a sense organ perceives an external object, it is really Atman that is the perceiver. So it's not our eye which sees. It is our true self which sees. Atman uses the sense organ as an instrument. So that's the teaching contained within this verse. And I think there is never a time when we are not experiencing our true nature. There is never a time when it is not here. This is also hinted at by this verse. Everything we experience only through our true nature, that consciousness. Only we don't see it. We don't realize it. We get just enmeshed. We get sort of absorbed in the sense experiences, and don't realize that actually we are apart from it. That sense experience arises in us. So that is what this is referring to. So we can take any sense experience, and it makes it easier if we can isolate one. Like say a certain scent. We can smell, maybe there's a little bit of incense fragrance still wafting here in the temple, or we can take a taste and analyze it. There is a taste, but there's also that consciousness in which that taste is arising, without which there would be no taste. That consciousness. This is that about which you were asking, Nachiketa, this consciousness in which it's arising. So, etad vaitat, this is that. All right, let's chant it. Yena rupam rasam gandham shabdan sparsham cha maithunan etenaiva vijanati kim atra parishishyate etad vai tat etad vai tat. This is that. Yena, by which, that by which, rupam, form, rasam, taste, gandham, scent, shabdan, sound, sparsham, touch, cha, and maithunan, sex pleasure. Etenaiva, by that alone. Vijanati, it is known, it knows. Kimatra, what else here? Parishishyate, remains. Etadvaitat, this is that. This is verily that. All right, are we ready for one more? 5 minutes? Shall we chant it once more? Yena rupam rasam gandham shabdan sparsham cha maithunan etenaiva vijanati kimatra parishishyate etadvaitat. That Atman, by which a person cognizes light, taste, smell, sound, touch, and the sexual contact. What is there unknowable to that Atman in this world? This is verily that. So in these three verses, it's interesting how the first verse discusses how our senses are going outward so we don't see within, and then by covering the senses, diving within, we touch immortality, we find our true self. And the second verse is reminding us that that all these seeking of desires, it's a sign of an immature mind, but one who amidst all this changing manifested universe finds the one unchanging, does not seek anything more. All those desires are stilled and does not pray for anything. And then showing how it's like now it comes back to that sense experiences as well. But those sense experiences which you do experience when you see something, when you hear something, when you smell something, when you taste something, when you touch something, actually, that's all happening. That's all arising in that infinite consciousness, which is your true self. So turn back and see that, experience that, realize that that is who you really are. So these three verses, of course, the teaching goes on. We've only done 3 verses today, but the teaching goes on in this way. I will suggest that this is a wonderful practice, and actually it helps a lot to actually memorize the verses, to memorize a verse. And then when meditating on it, one repeats the words slowly to oneself, either in a Sanskrit or in translation, repeats the word slowly to oneself, mentally, within, and let the meaning really sink in. And that's the power that these mantras have to they work their magic deep within as we repeat them slowly, let the meaning sink in. Then we don't have to go on repeating it, but that meaning, we hold that meaning, and points us in the direction of our true self, of infinite peace and joy and light and love. So I think we've covered an hour, and we can close here. Any burning questions? So we'll close here with our closing prayer. Om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma mritangamaya aviravirma edhi rudrayate dakshinam mukham tena mam pahi nityam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us unto light. From death, lead us to immortality. Reach us through and through ourself, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. Om, peace, peace, peace.